Having a healthy diet is vital during pregnancy. For a healthy pregnancy, a person's diet should include a balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. However, some foods and drinks can have a detrimental effect on a pregnant person's health and the eventual health of their baby. And our dietitian Yuri Bhaga is joining me to give us some advice on what to eat and what not to eat while you are pregnant. Good morning, Yuri, and thank you for joining me once again.
Thanks for having me. It's always good to join.
All right, let's start off by why is having a balanced and healthy diet important during pregnancy?
I mean, for the general population, a healthy, balanced diet is important. It just becomes more so important, when you're trying to conceive, and especially during pregnancy, because you're not just supporting your own health. Obviously, you want the best possible nutrients and, support for a healthy growing baby during those, 9 months from the
Mm-hmm.
first straight through to the trimester.
Mm-hmm. There are quite a bit of foods that should be avoided. What are they, and why should they be limited or avoided completely?
Okay, so I think I definitely start off with alcohol. I mean, that's quite a commonly known one, but very important in that. I don't think people understand the severity or the magnitude of the issues that could come into play if you do consume alcohol when you are pregnant. I mean, South Africa has one of the highest rates of fetal alcohol syndrome, um, you know, globally at a point we were very high on that risk. And it can cause developmental delays, issues with schooling, learning, concentration when the child is growing. So definitely a big one to omit from. There are now varied opinions, across the medical professionals, but I would say it's just err on the side of caution. And if you are someone that drinks alcohol, then definitely to cut that out of your diet. A big one along with that, maybe not a food, but smoking is another big one to exclude. And then sort of more for your more commonly eaten things like your caffeine, your coffees, any Red Bull, all of those energy drinks. Caffeine can still be consumed safely when you are pregnant, but you do want to limit it. So if you're someone who has 5, 6 coffees a day, that's definitely going to be something you're going to need to cut down on. So about 200 milligrams of coffee is sort of seen to be safe and hasn't shown any issues when pregnant women are consuming that. So depending on how strong you like your coffees, that anywhere between 1 to 2 small to medium cups of coffee a day. So caffeine is another one. And then something that doesn't really affect the South African population as much, but that would be fish containing mercury. And I say it doesn't really affect us because it's not things like your tuna, your hake, the fish that we typically consume here, but it would be things like swordfish, shark, along those lines. But I would still suggest when it comes to fish, definitely staying away from your raw, uncooked fish. For example, if you're going to be consuming sushi, you want to make sure anything in that is cooked, just in terms of the risk that comes from, in general, from foodborne illnesses when you're having uncooked raw meat and fish, and especially in pregnancy, it does pose a greater risk. In that same line of thinking, it's not really omitting an entire food, but just looking at when you're having meals out, trying to avoid things where they may have been contamination in terms of, if it's a lean meat or lean cold meats, trying to stay away from your uncooked meats in general, unless they have been steamed or boiled. So sort of like your Vienna sausages, those sliced meats, try and avoid them as far as possible. And even things like your salads, if you are going to be doing a salad, try and have it at home so you can control in terms of how it's been washed and cleaned and prepared.
Wow. I mean, who would have thought something as simple as a salad could could have a potential harm to you and your baby? Why a salad?
So anything where, it's a fresh produce ingredients where there's a source of contamination. So we aren't sure, depending where you're buying it from. For example, if it's a seal clove salad from, Checkers or Woolworths, it should be fine. And you can always then, have a look at it and suss it out. If you're going to a restaurant, they might have garnish on a plate and the plate may not have been washed correctly, or the water, the sauce
Mhm.
they're using might have, contaminant, and those are generally our bodies are strong enough to fight off any of those, foodborne illnesses. However, when you're pregnant, it can pose that risk. And I will say, err on the side of caution and just beware. So, if you, I'm not saying don't eat salad, definitely lots of green leafy veggies,
Mhm.
but just in terms of that preparation and that sources of contamination, you want to limit any risk that you possibly can, of course.
So basically, rather prepare it yourself at home, knowing that this is what you put in, this is how you cleaned it, etc.
Exactly.
Now, what
Mm,
about
mm.
organ meat? I read somewhere that organ meat is or is should be limited or is not recommended.
So it just depends. Many people will have organ meat, and again, it's just not cooked sort of thoroughly, properly. The whole idea is for it to be sort of on the raw end. So that could be the problem. Also, organ meat is extremely high in vitamin A, and with vitamin A, you don't actually want too much of this in pregnancy, as it can lead to a number, if you have too much, especially in those first sort of few weeks, that first trimester, it can lead to a number of congenital issues that will only appear now after birth. So best to keep the organ meat sort of, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, if it's something you're consuming on a daily basis, just because of that vitamin A content. It's just so dense within your organ meats. I would just say limited if it's something you're consuming very, very regularly.
All right, and let's talk dairy products, milk, cheese, etc. How much of that should be consumed and how much should be or what should be avoided?
So in terms of dairy, I mean, as long as it's, if it's your raw dairy coming straight from the cow into your cup, again, that source, you're just not sure. Nowadays, obviously, most of us are buying our milk and they have been through stringent processes, and most of the milks on the shelves are safe to drink. That's completely fine. In terms of portion, it's really going to depend on your pregnancy. So if you're someone who is healthy weight, your doctor, dietitian will recommend you to gain X amount of weight over this many weeks. And within that, as long as you are having sufficient amounts of dairy, so 1 to 2 glasses for standard, up to 4 to 5, depending on, maybe it's someone who has a risk of osteoporosis or maybe they're underweight. So that one, I can't give you an exact value, but it's not too different from your standard recommendation. And most South Africans don't actually get in enough dairy. So, most of us aren't drinking 2 to 3 cups of milk a day on a general day. So it might be something you have to just work a bit harder at during pregnancy, because calcium is quite an important one. Obviously, good, strong bones. You are now going to be using your stores to help develop this baby or this fetus. And also it's very important in terms of that it works with vitamin D, and vitamin D is a very important one during pregnancy in terms of making sure you're getting enough. But if you're not getting enough calcium and you are getting enough vitamin D, it kind of defeats the purpose. So I would say around 2 to 3 portions a day is a standard, but it may vary depending on your situation.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the foods that we should be eating or foods that should be consumed during pregnancy. Please stay with us.
For every child who lost a parent,
For every refugee who lost their home,
for every community without water,
for every person searching for a way to give, Africa Muslims Agency has been at your service for 35 years, connecting hearts and changing lives. Thank you for helping us to serve the needy since 1987. Support our journey by donating to Africa Muslims Agency as we commemorate 35 years of empowering, educating, and inspiring.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Approximately 785 million people in this world do not have access to safe, clean water. In developing countries, around 80% of all illnesses are due to contaminated water and poor sanitation. Don't let dirty water end a life. Build a water well in Bangladesh, Malawi, Nepal, Zimbabwe, or here at home in South Africa. Donate to Penny Appeal's Thirst Relief Project to bring safe, clean water to communities around the world. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece.
Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Prices are high, jobs are scarce, and the coldest days are here. South Africans are facing a bleak winter amidst global economic turmoil and soaring food costs. Keeping warm is an added expense. Let's help South Africa stay warm. Sponsor a blanket at just 90 Rand. Donate online at alimnet.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to
11:18. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. There's no better time than pregnancy to start eating nutrient-dense foods to help both you and your growing little one. You'll need increased amounts of many essential nutrients, including protein, folate, choline, and iron. It's also a myth that you're eating for two. You can eat as you normally do during the first trimester, then increase a bit per day by about 350 calories per day in your second trimester and about 450 calories per day in your third trimester. Obviously, it depends on how you eat regularly before pregnancy or out of pregnancy, etc. But this whole thing of eating for two, it's just a myth. So don't fall for it. Still with me is dietitian Yuri Bhaga giving us tips on what to eat and what not to eat during pregnancy. Yuri, thank you for staying on the line. Yeah, I mean, this thing of eating for two, I think it's just an excuse for some people to want to overeat. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so you got it, spot on. Unfortunately, it is a myth, and it's
all right, I think we have lost Yuri. We will try to reestablish connection with her. An optimal pregnancy eating plan should mainly consist of whole foods with plenty of nutrients to fulfill yours and baby's needs. Processed junk food is generally low in nutrients and high in calories, sugar, and added fats. While some weight gain is necessary during pregnancy, excess weight gain has been linked to many complications and diseases. These include an increased risk of gestational diabetes as well as pregnancy or birth complications. Stick to meals and snacks that focus on protein, vegetables and fruits, healthy fats, and fiber-rich carbohydrates like whole grains, beans, and starchy vegetables. Don't worry, there are lots of ways to sneak veggies into your meals without sacrificing taste. Now, we're not 5 anymore, so we don't have to worry about, being a picky eater and, you don't like this and you don't like that. And because, guys, seriously. All right, we have, we do have Yuri on the line. Yuri?
Yes, I'm back.
All right, I'm not sure what happened there, but let's continue. We're talking about what foods we can eat during pregnancy.
Yeah, so, like you mentioned, nutrient dense is the key. So you want to not be skimping out on anything. And in terms of your big food groups, you want a balance of the carbs, the healthy fats, and probably a little bit more protein. And protein is just a growing food. And you are going to be, your own body is going to be, under a bit of stress. So it will not be a bad idea to make sure you are focusing a bit on proteins, especially if you're someone who's vegetarian or trying to go plant-based. It might be a bit trickier and it might be worth your while chatting to someone. But those are your big food groups, and it's fairly easy to kind of just continue if you were on a previously healthy, balanced diet. So just keep doing what you're doing and then tweaking it, because there are about 3 to 4 very important micronutrients which you need to be just ensuring you're getting sufficient intake on. So you mentioned a few of them, choline and folic acid and iron. So those are 3 of the big ones. So in terms of, whenever you, mention pregnancy, the first thing your doctor or your dietitian asks is, are you on a supplement? Are you in a folic acid supplement? And that's because folate or folic acid is very important for the proper sort of development of the spinal cord. And if you don't have enough, especially within the first trimester of folate, it can lead to neural tube issues, which can cause a number of developmental issues down the line as well. And in terms of getting folate in from the diet, so, I mean, there's plenty of sources, but the amount you need, it's just 200 micrograms more than you would typically need if you weren't pregnant. It is a bit difficult to get in just from food sources, because it is things like your green leafy vegetables, asparagus, spinach, kale, those ones. And I mean, half a cup of spinach will only give you 100 or so micrograms, which means you still need to eat, many more cups of spinach just to meet that, 600 microgram requirement for a day. So with that being said, that is where supplementation does come in handy. And typically, you have a number on the market now, pregnancy supplements, and they cover you for all the important ones. So folate, choline as well. Choline, I mean, it's really easy to get from diet, but again, in terms of that amount that you need, you can't be only eating eggs and salmon and beans and these types of foods, because then you will go over in terms of your calories and you won't have space for, a good balanced diet. In terms of iron, so with the iron, this one, it depends. Most people will be probably able to meet that requirement just from diet. But again, it just depends. If you're not much of a meat lover, perhaps you now, having morning sickness, or you're just, you can't stomach certain things anymore. Again, a supplement may be needed, but this is where you need to go chat with a healthcare professional, because with iron, you also don't want too much. But best sources of the best absorbable iron are your animal sources: eggs, meat, chicken, lean red meat, all of those. And of course, you will get some from your plant protein. So don't skimp on the beans, legumes, chickpeas, all of those ones. And those are also a nice source of your folate. So, I mean, you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone there. So that's a big one. And then I mentioned calcium earlier, calcium and vitamin D together. And we are quite lucky in South Africa. We have a nice sun even in winter, although most of us are actually vitamin D deficient. But, 10, 15 minutes direct sunlight a day will give you sufficient levels, exposure to give you sufficient levels of vitamin D. But again, if it's not possible, if you're working, if you just can't be outside at certain times of the day, again, supplementation is an option. You will need to get individualized advice in terms of the dosages if you are going to go to the supplementation route, apart from the folic acid, because that one is pretty standard at this point.
All right. And now, for those people who are on special lifestyles or diets, like keto, banting, or who are vegan, etc., what advice do you have? Because I mean, it's quite challenging to navigate.
Yes. So I would say if you're unwilling to sort of take a pause on your specific diet, lifestyle, eating pattern, and if it is quite restrictive, for example, keto, where you're cutting out entire food groups like carbs or something like that, then I would suggest very strongly you work with a professional that can still ensure that from what you're consuming is going to give you the sufficient terms of nutrients you need. And if you have to go to supplementation, then they can advise you accordingly. Just because if you're just doing it on your own, you are leaving yourself sort of open to sort of a few gaps where deficiencies may come into play, and you definitely want to avoid that in terms of, the healthy development of the baby. So if that's an option to take a pause on the sort of specific diet, then that would be better. I would say transition back to a standard, balanced, healthy diet where you're including all foods sort of equal amounts in moderation and with a focus on those important micronutrients if you're able to consume those foods.
All right. And lastly, quickly, advice on what to do and what not to do during pregnancy.
So in terms of diet, it's do what you were always doing, assuming you were on a healthy, balanced diet. Don't stop exercising. Obviously, if you have been cleared by a doctor, continue with light to moderate exercise as far as you feel comfortable. It's not, as you mentioned, it's not really an excuse to eat more or double or badly, or now you can eat all the takeaway foods all the time because you're pregnant. It's really still important, even more important, to focus on being as healthy or nutrient focused as you can, and still healthy movement will be important. And do your regular checkups. Please do your first, second, and third trimester checkups. Any concerns or struggles, chat to your doctor, and try not to supplement on your own. It would be best to make sure you're getting that cleared off by a healthcare professional. There's lots of advice going to be coming from all the different sources: mums, aunts, uncles, hairdressers. It can be very confusing, but if it seems like it's too good to be true, if it just doesn't make sense, go with your gut. And if you really have a question, reach out to, to someone that you can trust, ideally medical professional. Most of us are on social media. A quick question, we'll be happy to answer it. And just, if you're doing a Google search, be safe and make sure your sources are reliable, and it's not like just somebody that doesn't have the right credentials.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Yuri. And one thing that people should always remember is to listen to their bodies and follow that instruction. Our grannies, aunts, uncles, the hairdressers, and everyone could give us advice, but sometimes the advice does not work for us, because what works for you will not exactly work for me.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The dietitian Yuri Bhaga taking us through what to eat and what not to eat while pregnant. And just quickly here, during pregnancy, you can consume certain dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt, but obviously it must be pasteurized. Yogurt, especially Greek yogurt, contains more calcium than most other dairy products and is especially beneficial. Some varieties also contain probiotic bacteria, which supports digestive system. And if you've been pregnant before, you'll know that you need to have something to support your digestive system, because you're gonna get constipated, and it is not fun at all. But if you are lactose intolerant, you may also be able to tolerate yogurt, especially probiotic yogurt. But obviously, check with your doctor to see if you can test it out. A whole world of yogurt smoothies, parfaits, and lassi could be waiting for you. So first, check it out with your doctor. It is 11:30. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Asala Media. We will be right back.